This episode was recorded on March 20th. Welcome to the Polytopian Interviewer, where I interview people on their experiences and views on the Polytopia Discord community. I have Randome Maximus, or Espark, with me today. Could we start with how you first got into the Polytopia Discord?
Sure. There was this game that I used to have. It was called Anti-Yo. It was really simplistic, and it wasn't very fun to play. But it was like a strategy turn-based game like Polytopia is. So I deleted it because I have random purges. 2 months later, I found the recommendation for Polytopia. I picked a few games, maybe get a couple tribes, and then realized that I have no one to play with. So I decided to look around, and I eventually found the Polytopia Discord. Ever since then, I have been on it most of the time.
That's cool. Not everybody has a friend or person they know they can play in person.
Yeah.
I'm guessing your nickname Espark is a joke? Or what is with that?
It's interesting. It goes along with the story. Justin was helping Espark build something, and me and a couple of other guys screwing around in the voice chat. We're screwing around in that. Where did all the other sparks go? Espark was like, oh, there used to be like a ton more, So me and Justin both at the same time thought, hey, wouldn't it be great if we became sparks? So we both became sparks, and eventually that cascaded into a bunch of other people who also joined the Spark gang. So yeah, it's sort of a joke, but also not a joke.
JustNip in Maine at least changed his nick back to JustNip.
Yeah, I've never really seen a reason why change it back.
He's a mod now too, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You're a poly streamer. What's that like?
It depends on the crowd that comes. Sometimes there's people who are like, oh, I love the stream, or people who hate the stream, or think it's too quiet or too loud, or it can be a variety of things. There's also always the few that always try to get you to say or do weird things on stream.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, it's just talking to people and playing games.
So you just stream Polytopia games?
I've always thought about branching out, so I'll either do Polytopia, or if it's not a very laggy day, I'll do some Polycraft. But other than those two, I haven't really branched out yet.
I'm guessing you spend quite a bit of your time in Polycraft?
Yeah. And ever since I was a little kid, I've always been a big Minecraft fan. So when I learned that Polytopia, one of my favorite games now, had a Minecraft server, I started screwing around in it, and eventually we created so many different things. We had 3 wars at least, and we had all the battles, and then we had Moose and Utah and Project Luna and those sorts of things.
Care to share the drama about Moose being banned from Polycraft?
Sure. Moose was always a warmonger. There are a lot of warmongers on there. Royal used to be, Foxy was a big one. Maureen and Solus are a couple of them. But none so much as Moose. He always got really enthusiastic about it. He was always really into it. He even did some war crimes. But every once in a while, the server would die down. It would get quiet, and it would become boring for some people. So Moose, I came up with the bright idea of making the villains group. I wanted to watch from the outside, like I usually do. It was a game of entertainment for me. So I asked Moose to do it. I told a few of the opposing tribe leaders and some of their tribe leaders so that they are prepared for it, so they're not caught off guard by this new group that are trying to create chaos. I also told Justin because I thought it was a good idea. And so I let him off, and I didn't do anything with it for 2 weeks-ish. Maybe a week or two later, I'm joining it because apparently there was a lot of people there needed a lot of help. They're trying to get things started really quickly so they could move around and create more chaos. Around that time, as I'm joining in, Moose and Napoleon and Foxy all get banned. Fox and Moose get banned for 2 weeks while Napoleon gets banned for 1. However, I think in that situation, Napoleon was the instigator. And then they get banned for 2 weeks. It's not a big deal. Me and Royal and a couple of the other people who are helping us really work on the base and resources and armor and things like that. Eventually, they come back. Around that time, too, a bunch of people were defecting to, I think, Utah at that time, or there was this group against us. I can't remember their names. But there were a few people defecting, and eventually, silently, Moose defected. He leaves, and he joins this group, and he and Moose get into this really big fight about betrayal and things, and it was kind of messy. They were really good friends, or at least I thought so. Then they split apart, and Royal left, and then everyone in the Villains Discord was talking about it. We're arguing back and forth on where we go forward from this. Royal had the claim to the base delay, so we couldn't, which eventually becomes the Utah laboratory. So we had to go in and get all of our crap, and then we had to move out as quickly as possible before he did something stupid or we did something stupid to make him angry or something like that. So we all packed up and we left. Essentially, Royal was leaving and betrayal. Really, he was going to the right side. That sounds political, even though it isn't. He goes to the right side of the debate. Villains, I came up with this idea intending for them to be evil. Royal defected to the good side, so I'm not sure if it's betrayal or not because he was doing the right thing. He leaves, and the group, essentially, it was a fissure, it broke us apart. I left, Foxy left, and Moose decided to go out on his own. Pretty much that day, or sometime in the week after that, he's creating problems. I think there was a manhunt after him. A lot of it was he was being a pest. He was very much a pest. So he gets through, and he gets banned. Permanently banned, and a couple of people, not very many, are against it. I think there's 2 people I could think of that were against it. By the way, this whole entire time, Utah had been making fun of him because he was annoying, which eventually becomes important for later. There was so much crap going around, he got banned and things like that. It's been 4 months that he's been banned. He's been assisting us in Luna, and he made the Anti-Utah Society, and Utah fell apart. He's been a big help for me, and I kind of needed some more help on the Polycraft itself, on the server, because we just had a big budget, we're trying to do things, and we're kind of outmanned because there's not a whole ton of active people who come on daily anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, hey, maybe we could bring Moose back. So I create my debate. I've been thinking about this for maybe a month now. This isn't something that was just right off the bat, hey, I need help. Let's try and get Moose unbanned. I was waiting for a time where I would need to have him unbanned. We get through, and I'm debating with mods, I'm debating with other people, I'm making petitions and arguments, and essentially for 3 full days, I'm getting very little sleep to try and keep up with all the arguments. I'm DMing Zoe, I'm trying to argue with Jesnip to get him to agree with letting Moose come back. And there were a lot of problems with both sides, really, because Moose was a pest. Do not get me wrong. He was very much not the best person. I had felt that I needed him back. There was a lot of problems with the original ban itself. And I felt that he had made a big enough change for me to ask him to come back. So for 3 full days, where I'm arguing and I'm debating, and I eventually ask Zoe, hey, I have something to ask you. Can you unban Moose? And he's like, that's a tall order. I give him some pros to it. into getting Moose unbanned. And he's like, all right, I'll bring it up with the rest of the Polycraft moderators. So the next day, I'm sitting there and I'm arguing with JustNip and I think Zero and one more person, Gina. And Ace is arguing with me on my side. Zero and Gina have sort of been right in between the middle. They kind of like the idea of Moose being unbanned, but they were arguing against us just to try and show flaws in our points and things. It was kind of annoying, but it was okay because they were trying to help us. I DM Zoe real quick to ask him on an update on how it's going, and he says, we decided to keep him banned, but we have a lot of fun events coming up. I'm like, that's not what I asked. If I don't find something much bigger in the future, or if I already able to get more people on my side, I might be able to get him unbanned in the future, but that would take so much work, and I currently do not have the energy and the resources for it just yet. Hopefully soon I will, but maybe I'm completely wrong, and maybe Moose should stay banned forever. That's the drama around Moose being unbanned.
You said something about how Moose has changed. How are you able to determine that?
He says sorry. When I knew Moose, he didn't say sorry. He argued and he bickered and he was angry all the time. He was a warmonger, so you would expect it from him. And I'm not saying he isn't a warmonger anymore. I think the 4 months plus the fact that he's looking at a permanent situation, he's been offering to help. All he needs is to be let back on, so I feel like he has changed. It has done enough to him to make him change, to make him be a better person, someone who's deservative to coming back to the server.
I don't have enough experience besides what you told me, so I don't have any other comments regarding that.
Okay.
Could you share what's all on the Project Luna server?
I'm going to start with what's on Project Luna because it ties into the story a little. What's on Project Luna is, first and foremost, it's a place mainly for polycrafters to go and hang out, to debate on things, or post other servers, or just talk, or change resources, or whatever. It isn't somewhere where you have to be 24/7. It also gives out war information, which leads to the Shogun. The Shogun are essentially the tribe's people who work out alliances and wars. And what they do is they deal with the war aspects, and they post information for wars, and they deal those sorts of things. Since this big war, they've decided to take a moment to give everyone peace, so hopefully that lasts a little bit longer. Then there's your representatives who aren't Shogun. Project Luna is split in the Shogun and the people who can chill there, and the actual project itself. The project itself is like an organization of peacekeepers and all of the aspects of Project Luna that the reps control. The representatives, they work budgets, they deal with donations, they deal with charity, they deal with the peacekeepers, they can run their own debates, those sorts of things. They deal with the whole Project Luna itself. Debates are pretty prominent on the server. When there's a debate, some people want to watch, some people don't want to hear about it, so there's a private and a public channel, both for debates. That's Project Luna. The reason why I made Project Luna, it's very controversial. Essentially, Utop had fallen apart. There were a lot of problems with Utop. It started bullying Moose, which he wasn't a good person at the time, but it's not very ethical for an organization who's supposed to be helping people and creating peace to be going around and talking behind someone's back, making gossip and bullying them. It had become very inactive. It was very quiet. I used to be the Polaris representative for it. It was very quiet. Nothing happened. Nothing was even brought to our attentions as representatives. That's all well and good because there was the tribe leaders above us who probably were dealing with most of it, but I didn't hear almost anything out of them either. At least from as far as I've heard, nothing came out of them. And then the third biggest blow to Utop was Telest, or Tntmasta, also known as Espark for anyone who doesn't know either of those. Telest, he isn't a bad person. I will never say someone's a bad person. I'll say they're annoying, or they're rude, or they did something stupid, but no one is particularly a bad person. But Telest was not a great person. He had multiple times, or at least from as far as I've heard, tried to get control of Amo. Amo is probably one of the best tribes for building events and things because they're so peaceful, they're never focused on wars, so they have to find other ways to entertain themselves. Some of the best tribes do that. I'll get back to that in a second. One of the actions he did is he tried on his own server to run as tribe leader, TL, by having very few people vote. I think some Amo knew about it, Amoians, but only a few were allowed to vote, and he won by default since no one was running against him and no one was running at all except for him, and it was kind of rigged, if you ask me personally. Apparently, at some point, Royal was 12. He was either 12 or much younger than 12 when he joined the Polytopia Discord and Polycraft itself. It's against TOS for a server runner to knowingly have anyone younger than 13 in their server, because that can get them banned, or any number of things could happen. That's kind of how Zoe gets away with it. Not because he's actually intending to get away with it, it's because I don't think it's ever come up to him. Apparently Royal was 13, but it's important to remember back then Royal was 12. So Royal gets banned from Amoya because he breaks TOS, and Telest apparently comes on. Apparently he demanded to be given perms or something like that, something along those lines.
Why?
I'm guessing he was very angry because I think he and Royal are a little closer than anyone expects because, Amo and Barter are not very close at all. But apparently he came in and he tried to get perms and he got banned really quickly. Those three things kind of killed, because if nothing else, Utop was an extension of Amo, and if Amo was being upset by the runner of Utop, if Utop was upsetting Amo wasn't really going to be participating in it. It wasn't doing anything for any of the other tribes, and most of the other tribes were warmongers and didn't like how it had been affecting how wars are played and sort of things like that. It died. Maybe a little while before, I had been coming up with this idea of either asking Telest to allow me to try and fix Utop, or making my own server. There were a few snags I ran into. If I had to make my own server, I had to make a way for it to change permissions, change owners, change server runners, and for ways for the reps to be actually connected to their community and to be running Project Luna and the Shogun to be doing things. So it's not just peace, it's also about just polycrafters. It's mainly about just polycrafters. But I didn't want to put in all the work at the start. But it had become more of an appealing sounding. So I talked to Telest on the Utop server. I said, hey, what's going on? Why is it so quiet? He's like, well, I'm pretty much the only person running this. There were two other people, I think Mavis? I don't know how to say his name. He was the Barter TL. And there was another guy who I think is pretty prominent. I can't remember his name, though. But those two have been inactive forever, each for their own reason. So Telest was like, it's just falling apart. And so I said, have you ever thought of hiring helpers or asking for helpers? And so he was like, yeah. I was like, well, have you looked into anyone? And then he doesn't text back. At least for 2 days. I'm jumping around as well in all of the servers that I was connected in, and I was asking what their opinions on Utop were and what they would like to see better out of it. And a lot of people didn't like its reputation, didn't like how it had been run and dealt with, and sort of things like that. I realized that if we're going to fix Utop, we needed to draw it away from solely peace, and we had to draw it away from his past of attacking Moose and his friends, and having mainly Telest step down. But I knew Telest, or at least I think I know Telest enough to know that that's not something he's going to be wanting to do right off the bat. This was his child. He didn't want to let go of his attempt to become AMOTL. There was things I needed to change in it. I realized that it would have been easier personally for us to switch servers, switch people control, because making a whole new server allows people to change control of who runs this sort of thing. It allows new policies in and new ways of doing things. It basically starts fresh for everything.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to carry any of the baggage of Utop and what it had done and everything it was created to do. I spent 3 days trying to make the Luna server. Looking back at it, I probably could have mentioned it to Telest that I was going to decide to make a new server. I would have known his reaction already. It wouldn't have turned out good anyways. So I just decided to do it quietly, make Project Luna, figure out for it, because I may not be the best government person, but I at least know something. I made Project Luna. I got Espark and a Kizzle to help me beta test it, and then I had people who sent it out, and then Zero helped me polish it up real quick. And then Telest logs on. And Telest, the first thing he says, and we had just barely been starting, I was trying to get tribe representatives up on it, and I was trying to get Shogun, and I was trying to just get people to join. The first thing he asks for is, give me control of the server. And I realized that mostly what he wants out of the server, Polycraft, Polytopia, Project Luna, Utop, everything, is he wants things to go his way to give him standing and control, because if it didn't, he was going to bicker and fight about it. I had already gotten into an argument with Jade Dragon on what the problems with Luna, and if you want to see that later, just ask me and I'll show it to you. I have it archived. He came in and he was arguing. He's like, what did I do wrong? How come I'm shown as a dictator? And it was just a mess. So now Telest is remaining pretty quiet, and everyone seems to be doing okay, and so it seems that I have hopefully done my job well. So that's Project Luna.
I was in Polycraft for only a brief while, so I did not know all this stuff going on.
Yeah, there's drama every week. But hey, it's entertaining. Usually every week. There are some quiet weeks, though.
Maybe you can make a Polycraft drama newspaper or something.
It would be very cool to have one. But I think most of the most dramatic ones are covered in AMO. Or are kept in people's memories. So maybe.
Fair enough. I take it Polaris is your favorite tribe then?
Yes. For a long period of time, I've had a hard time connecting with ideas and items and tribes and things. Countries and that sort of thing. I don't really connect with them well. I connect with people, not ideas. But when I saw Polaris, it kind of ties to my personality and where I live. I live somewhere that's very cold a lot of the time. We get a ton of snow out here. We're actually famous for our snow. And it kind of matches my personality. It's cold, and it doesn't like being run by things. It's mostly solitude. It's how I am. I enjoy my time in solitude.
Do you have a least favorite tribe?
Yes, I do. and I'm sure someone's going to hate on me for it, but I very much dislike Luxador. Not because it's a bad tribe to play, not because it's the least played tribe on Polycraft, but because it's so annoying to deal with on the Polytopia games. Because essentially the first thing they do is spam riders or warriors and basically take your capital before you can build up a strong economy. Essentially the biggest problem with Polaris. I very much dislike Luxador.
Yeah, I suppose Lux would be a natural enemy due to the economic difference.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite unit?
My favorite unit is Doomix. Mainly because it is extremely powerful. It's 10 stars for the ability to basically ruin and destroy all of your opponents, including giants. One of the big things about Luxadors and most other tribes is that they are really good giants. It's a really powerful one, and I do enjoy having it when I play.
Yeah, there was a game I played. It was a Umaji versus Simanti, and there was a narrow land bridge to the Umaji mainland. I'm just like, well, guess I'll just spam hexapods and then Dumoxes, and they sent a bunch of giants and other units. I'm just like, explode.
Yeah. It is way fun to play Simanti, just mainly because of its mechanics, but Polaris will always be in my heart.
So is your favorite strategy to get the ice spike as quickly as you can and then spam a bunch of Gamis?
Sort of. I like having Gamis around. They allow me to get to other areas without having to take a billion turns like the Mooney do. But I actually enjoy, for Polaris, I like having a Gami and Knight mix, mainly because the big thing about Gami is that they're really susceptible to range units. Knights can easily take care and shield for catapults or tridentians.
Polaris versus Aquarian is pretty interesting.
It really depends on the player. There's some strategies that on Aquarion that will destroy my brain.
How many games are you usually in at once?
Unless I'm doing a really specific tournament, or I'm playing on my streams or something like that, I'm usually 1 to 2 games at most. But when I'm doing streams or I'm doing tournaments or things like that, I'm hanging out with the community, it could be 5, 6 games just in one day.
Last question. What's your favorite part of the Polytopia fandom as a whole?
Honestly, the people. It's a calm, usually, but entertaining place. And it's honestly, all the players, it's interesting to discuss with them, it's interesting to play with them. It's an amazing group of people that, honestly, everyone should be a part of. It is so much fun to be around these guys.
Alright, that's all the questions I had.
Sweet, well, thank you, Tntmasta.
Yeah, no problem. Glad to have you on.
I will talk to you later.
See you around. Bye. As always, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed it, feel free to share it. For the text version, you can join my Discord in the description. I also have a YouTube channel where I play 1v1s and occasionally do tutorials. We'll be back next week. Bye!